The armed conflict in the Central African Republic, in which fighters from neighbouring Chad and Sudan have become involved, escalated when Seleka, a coalition of several armed groups, launched an armed offensive against the government of former President Francois Bozize in early December 2012. Seleka seized power on the 24th of March 2013, and the human rights violations have continued since. As has been the case for several decades, civilians bear the brunt of the human rights abuses and violations in the Central African Republic. Since December 2012, hundreds of civilians have been deliberately killed, while thousands have been subjected to torture and other forms of cruel, inhuman or degrading treatment, including rape and other forms of sexual violence. Seleka soldiers have attacked civilians across the country and left families destitute and public institutions desolate. Children, both boys and girls, have continued to be recruited by Seleka and other armed groups. Several 100,000 civilians have been displaced, while more than 60,000 Central Africans have fled to neighbouring countries. Not only do the new authorities appear to lack the will and or the capacity to prevent or stop human rights violations, it is Seleka soldiers who are the main perpetrators. Jointly or separately, Seleka soldiers, bandits, armed nomads and poachers have deliberately burned houses and other civilian properties. There have been reports of armed groups, some of them reported to be fighting for the return to power of ousted President Francois Bozize, targeting civilians accused of supporting the new government. There are fears in the Central African Republic that some of the abuses appear to be targeted at religious groups, with predominantly Muslim members of Seleka targeting Christians and Christian institutions. In apparent retaliation, non-Muslims have targeted Muslims. These human rights violations and abuses by soldiers and armed groups may amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity. Humanitarian workers have been attacked and or prevented from carrying out their work, severely reducing their ability and capacity to assist civilians, including sick and malnourished children in dire need of aid. Amnesty International has been campaigning globally for peacekeepers to be sent to the Central African Republic to stop the violence by all sides against the civilian population. Through online actions, media and diplomatic work, and by hitting the streets in protest, Amnesty has been campaigning to save the lives of the people of the Central African Republic. Amnesty groups around Australia took to the streets in March, calling for United Nations peacekeepers to be sent to the Central African Republic. In Adelaide, Brisbane and Hobart, as well as in other cities around the world, Amnesty supporters raised their voices. In April, the United Nations Security Council voted to send a 12,000-strong peacekeeping force to the Central African Republic. European Union peacekeepers arrived in early May, with more peacekeepers from other countries to follow. The situation in Central African Republic remains grave, but the arrival of peacekeepers gives some cause for hope. Amnesty continues to campaign to protect the population of Central African Republic from human rights abuses.